Hello and welcome to a new solo edition of Courier Live. Since we are all socially distancing ourselves, I thought I would come on here and do one by myself. So today I'm going to be looking at our Courier Python package, which is what helps people who are writing Python connect to Courier to send messages. So this is a new package. It came out probably a couple weeks ago, and like most new packages, it came out with kind of the what you need. So it currently helps you out with sending. But I'm going to today add the ability to update your profile information that could be stored in Courier. So let's get to it. So here is the GitHub repo for the Courier Python package. You can go to it. You can download it from PyPy. So we've got pip install trycourier is all you need to do to get started. You can also click this link here to see it in PyPy. And then we've got some examples using token auth and basic auth. And then there's some information about contributing. So I'm going to be doing something that really anybody in the community has the ability to do. So if you are interested in helping out and expanding this library and making it a better experience for Python developers, you can come to the repo and then look at this contributing markdown file, and it will tell you everything that you need to do to get started. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to set up your local development environment. So we're going to assume that you have Python installed. You only need Python 3 because as of, I believe it was January 1st, Python 2 is no longer supported, so we're not even worrying about that. So you'd want to fork this repository, clone your fork, make sure you have virtual env installs. That's going to make it really easy to contain everything that you're doing. And then we have a make file that's available for getting it set up. And then you'll want to run the source env bin activate to activate your Python virtual environment. And so I'm going to be doing that here soon. So just kind of a run through of contributing. I'm trying to make it very easy. If you find something that's missing or something that could be cleared up, please let me know. You could do a PR for this document to help people get started. So well, let's look and see what we're going to do today. So I have this ticket. Internally, we use linear, and I'm going to be working off of that. So basically, it's to update the Courier Python to support Profiles API. So that's going to include adding some methods for get underscore profile, replace profile, and merge profile. One thing with Python syntax is it uses, I believe this is camel case. So whenever there's multiple words, they need to be separated by an underscore and all lowercase for method names. So that's why you see get underscore profile and replace underscore profile. So this is also going to mirror how we do things in the node library too. It's just a different case. So this is what we need to do. So I'm going to click this little link here because that's going to help me with my branch name that I'm going to need to keep everything linked up internally. And let's go to Visual Studio Code. Now I already have my Visual Studio opened up to my to the project folder, and I've got this nice little terminal window here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run source env bin activate, just like it said in the contributing docs. And so what that's going to do, you can notice that we now have a little env before our cursor line there. And that means that has been activated. So there is a virtual environment sitting in this sitting in this env folder, and that's what we're going to be installing things to, and that's the Python version that we're going to use. And so activating that just makes sure that everything is pointing to that. So I'm going to do that, but then now I'm also going to create the new branch that we'll be working on. So I'm going to do git checkout branch, and I'm going to paste in that fun branch name that I copied from linear. You don't have to use, you will likely not be using linear. You are welcome to name the branch whatever you want. It's going to be on your fork. And then after we're done, we'll end up doing a pull request. So it doesn't matter. This is just for internal things. And, oh, I did not spell checkout right. So I'm going to go back and fix that and try it again. Cool. So now we have a new branch, and we can get started. Taking a look at the library as it stands, there are 3 files that we'll be working with inside of the Courier package. So there is a session file, which is just a version of the session library that we use inside client. We have an exceptions file where we holds information about exceptions that we can throw, and then everything that we're going to be doing today is going to be inside this client.py file. And so you can see this is where we set up the Courier object, and we set up how we initialize it. So we create a new session from the sessions.py, and we take care of some authentication things. And then you see we have the send method. So this is what's already done, and this is what takes care of doing a post to the send endpoint for Courier. And so this is already done. So this is probably going to help us as we're moving forward. So the first thing we should probably do is create a new method that will perform the API request to the profiles endpoint. And so we'll start very easily with get. I need to reposition my camera because it looks like I'm not looking at you when I'm doing this. I'm slightly over to the side. Okay, make sure we're on the same line. I've bumped up the text size a little bit so it's easier for y'all to look at. If you can't see something, please let me know in the chat. And we are going to do our first one. So we're going to find a new method, and it is going to be the get profile method. And just to let you know a little of my Python background, I started writing Python back in, I believe it was 2007, and then I didn't write it for a long time. Back in 2007, I was working on a project where I essentially wrote a parser that would consume an XML type markup and then turn it into a form for doing loan origination. So at the end, it was like a very crappy version of React. I really wish we would have blogged and things like that back then. And then I didn't do Python for a while until I started working at SparkPost, where I worked with Rich Leland, and we put together the SparkPost client library for Python. And so here I am doing it again. So if you see something that I'm doing that isn't quite Python convention, please feel free to let me know, and we'll fix it. I want to make sure that I'm doing things the right way, but normally I do a lot of JavaScript development, so sometimes that gets in the way. Okay, so let's look and see. So let's switch back over to Chrome and take a look at what the routes are that we're going to be using. So here is the docs at trycourier.com, and we have references for this. Let's go to the this get endpoint. And so we need a recipient ID, and we are going to do a get on that to the profiles, and that is going to return, the profile will be returned as a JSON object. Cool. And so you can see here that the object that we get back has a profile property with the items that are in the profile. And so this should just be a simple get request to the recipient ID. So it looks like the only thing that we're going to need for somebody to pass into this method would be a recipient ID. And let me find my Python conventions. I want to make sure, let's see. instance variable. Let's see, lowercase. So it looks like we're going to be camel case again. Just want to make sure. Yeah, separated with an underscore. All right. Had that off to the side. So let's go back to our Visual Studio Code. And this is going to take, okay, so first we always pass self because Python. And then we're going to ask for a recipient underscore ID. And that seems to be what they want. So we'll do a colon, enter. And let's do a bit of docstring. Oh, wow. So I just installed, this is cool. So I just installed a plugin to Visual Studio Code that helps me out with my docstrings because I'm bad at them. So let's see. Okay, so it's trying to help me. Let me help you. And so this is going to be retrieve a profile, retrieve the profile for, I was like, you know what, this might be, I'm just going to steal this. This seems like a good example. And we'll just paste that there. Okay, and then the recipient ID, that is going to be type str. And can I just steal the description for that? There we go. And so a recipient ID is, it's probably going to complain that that's too long, but is a unique identifier representing the recipient associated with the requested profile. Mouthful. All right, so we've done that. Now, so let's set up the URL, and so we're going to do something similar to here, except instead of send, it's going to be profile. So we're saying the URL is /profile. Oh, sorry, the base URL / the profile. And then we're going to add one more because we need to include this recipient ID. So we'll go ahead and put another %s in there, and then we can pass this recipient ID. And so that will set up the URL that we're going to do a GET request against. Cool. So there's not going to be a payload. We don't have to worry about any arguments we pass in that might be optional. So we should just be able to go ahead and do the call. So we're going to do response is equal to self.session.get. Yes. And we are going to pass it the URL that we just created. And that should be it. Cool. And so I'm going to take this piece of code up here. So this is just checking to see if there's an error, and it's going to turn it into a Courier API exception, just like we did at the top. And then we are going to return the response.json. And so that's going to take what's returned from the JSON, and it's going to probably put it into a dictionary. I believe that's what this ends up returning. So that's done. That was a short one. Pretty easy whenever we don't have to worry about passing in like a payload with the JSON object arguments. And so now that I've done that, let's go over and write some tests for it. So we're going to go to test_client. That's where the tests for the client live. And just to let you know, once you get this done and you do a pull request against the repo, we have a GitHub action set up that's going to run these tests, and it's going to fail if the tests fail. So make sure you do your tests. And we are going to do a success one, so it's going to look similar to this. We're going to take this decorator, and we'll name it similar. So let's just steal this. And so instead of sim, we'll do profile get, or sorry, get profile. And that, yeah, it's just empty function. And I should def it. That's probably going to be helpful. Sure. And let's set up what the what a response is going to look like. So I'm going to copy this for right now, and we'll make it a little change here. Okay. So we're going to add a response. It's going to be a response with a get. It's going to come from /recipients. Nope. Profile. And then it's going to have a recipient ID. So for the recipient ID, I'm just going to call it 1234. It's going to return a 200 response. It's going to return JSON, and it's going to return a JSON body, but it's going to look a little bit different. So it's going to look like profile, and then let's take this out, and we're going to say email. And that is going to be test@example.com. So we got that. I'm writing this all on a line, so gotta. Wait, there we go. I had the right amount. Sorry, no, one more. So we've got an object with a profile that has a key of email with an email address. It just weirds me out that this is blue. But I believe that's right. Okay, well, we'll give it a shot. And so from here, we can just call, so we'll create a Courier instance, and so we can just copy this from here. And so C is equal new Courier instance. We're passing in an auth token that is fake. The responses will catch this call and send back what we just put in up here. And I have to look at this every time. Right. And so we'll basically do something like this. So we will have a response. Response is going to be equal to c.getProfile, and we pass that a string, which should be 1234. Oh, okay. And now we are going to assert that the response that we get is what we expect. And so we're going to, except this is actually going to be a list because our function turns it into a list. So we're going to assert R is equal to, right? Yes. So this is where we don't put all of that. So it's going to be profile email. Oh, wait. This is where I have to make sure that I don't do things in JavaScript land. Yeah, I think it's fine. Doesn't need to be single quotes, but the second one does, I believe. Okay, so email is equal test@example.com. And that's ended. And that's ended. And so that should be a test. And so now that we have our test written, we can go down here and we can use our handy makefile and we can say make test. All right. And so the first thing that test is going to do is it's going to lint the file. And it did find that there was an error that that one line was too long. So we're going to go back over here and I'm going to break this up. I'm going to save it. I'm going to run it again. And of course, I broke it up one character more than it should, or less than it should have been. So I'm going to change this to down here, and then bring this back up here, and that will work. Still looks nice. Apparently, my linter got uninstalled from my Visual code, so that's cool. Fun little exercise with the FLAC 8. So we got trailing white space on line 78. It does not like that. There we go. All right, so we got some tests and we got an error. Let's see what this means. Syntax error. Okay. Oh, yeah, it's not an assignment. It should be equal, equal. Yes. Cool. My bad. Hey, all right. So we've got 11 passed, but we are missing coverage. So we're only covered at 97%. So let's go and we'll do an open. Let's see, the coverage files are in. HTML index.html. There we go. And so here we can see a nice HTML version of this, and we can go in. We're missing one statement, and it is, oh, we should probably also test that it raises that on an exception. And so that's easy enough to do. I did it on the other one. And it's basically this. So we are going to, I'm just going to copy this one and modify it. So this is going to be test fail get profile. Okay, and so this is going to be a response from a get. It's going to look like this one instead of the send. We are going to make it so where it sends a 400 status, meaning that something happened on the courier side. Again, content type is application JSON, and the messages we pass back, if there is a fail, looks something like this, but let me swap back over to our docs, and we can see here that on a bad request, well, it says nothing, so might need to look into that. But for now, what we have there with a message and an error occurred is fine. And so we're going to, again, create our Courier client. And then using this raises, we're going to call our event again. And so we'll just copy this from right here. We don't need to set it to a variable because it's going to raise an error. And so I'll save that. And we'll run our test again. And everything's passing, everything's covered. If we go back over to here and we refresh, you can see that everything runs, nothing's missing, everything's happy. So that was Get Profile. And I'm going to do a live test of this after I get the other two put in. And so let's keep moving right along. The next one should be a replace, I believe. So if I go back over here, I made myself a little note. So replace is equal to the put. So if we go over here and we look at the put, this replaces an existing profile or creates one if it doesn't already exist. So you would, well, it does what it says. So let's continue on. Why make things harder than they actually are, right? Okay, so we're back in the client. We have the get profile done. Let's do another space, and we'll define, my fingers were not on the home row, replace profile, and that's going to take self recipient ID, ID, and then we're also going to give it a profile to replace. And then we'll do our little docstring. And the summary is going to be what I copied, but we're going to knock that down. To the next line, because that's too big. So the recipient ID, again, this is going to be of type string. And we're going to use the same description because it's the same thing. The profile is going to be of type get. And let's see what the description is over there. Getting a lot of dropped frames. Let me look at the health of this. This is the first time streaming from this apartment. So where's my stream manager? Okay, still looks pretty good. Let me know if I start getting choppy or if I glitch out. All right. So a profile is an object that includes key value pairs required by your chosen integrations. So we'll just copy this much, and we'll go back over. So we'll say key value pairs required by your chosen integrations. Cool. And we'll do the same thing by starting with creating the URL that we're going to be doing the put against. And so it's going to be the same one as the get, so we'll just go ahead and copy that over. So it's going to be the base URL / profile / recipient ID. And I just had a thought. Profiles. We should probably fix that. Would have found that out really soon. So here we'll make that profiles. We'll make this profiles, and then we'll go over into our tests and make sure, yeah, profile here, That's all we need. Okay, continuing on. So we will need the profile. Let's take a look at this doc again. So when we're doing the put, it's an interesting we have to actually, okay, there's no default. All right, so it looks a little like this in the data, so there is going to be a profile property on that. And so what we are passing in is actually this piece. So let's go back over. There we go. And we'll do response is equal to self.session.put. And we're going to give it the URL. Let me look at how I did this similarly for the post. Should I do the payload like I did? Yeah, let's do that. So under here, oops, getting lost. What are you unhappy about? Oh, not used yet. It's fine. Give it time. So payload is equal to, and that's going to be profile, like we have over here. Profile, making sure it's not plural. Shouldn't be, but why not look? And that is going to be the profile up here that we passed in. Okay. Right. And so we can pass in the payload as this JSON property or argument, because what that will do is it will take this dictionary and actually turn it into JSON for you, which is nice. It's a feature of the requests library. And so we'll get that back. We need this guy in case it comes back with a 400. And otherwise, we're just going to return response.json. So we'll just copy that from there. And let me see what that actually returns. Lost my, there we go. So when we look at this, it returns status success. So not the, it's fine. Yeah. So we'll just remember that for a 200, whenever we're doing our test, that it returns status success. And then if it's a bad request, I believe it returns a message. I'm gonna have to update that because that's what it does for the send. If we go to that really quick, yeah, I think that's just not filled out in the docs. That's okay because I can fix that. So back to the code. So here is our replace profile. That's done. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to go over to the tests, and I'm going to just, I'm just going to copy both of them. Paste that in there. So this is going to be replace profile. And this is going to be a put. This is going to be replace profile. Again, this is going to be a put. The URL is still the same. Content type, the body that we are passing. Let me make sure. This is actually the body of the response, so that's where we put in this status. And take that out. It's going to be success. Okay. Let's do a payload. And that is going to be let's do a profile. And that is going to be email test@example.com. And so this is the profile that we're going to pass over into the function down here. And so this is a replace profile for this recipient ID of 123. And we are going to also pass the profile. And we're going to assert that status is equal to success. Yeah, good enough for now. And then down here for the fail, we have the same thing, message, and that's what's going to return. We'll do the auth token. Here, and we're going to say, I'm going to copy this profile. Data. Whoa, too many lines. So we're going to make this call again. This time it's going to raise an exception. And now we can run our tests. Make test. Oh. Okay, line 97. Too long. And all right, so if something failed, takes 2 positional arguments, but 3 were given. That's because I didn't change the name. Yep. Replace. Because that's the one that we're working on right now. Run the test again. All the tests complete, and we still have 100% coverage. So moving on. Check these off my list. So we did replace, and now we're going to do merge profile. And checking my notes here, merge is the post. So when we come back over here and we look at the post, this is going to merge the supplied values with the existing profile or create a new one. So this is kind of like an upsert. So it's going to update an existing profile or create a new one, where the other one would just flat out replace it. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and we'll go back over to Visual Studio, to the client. And we'll work on the next step. So we'll define merge underscore profile. It's going to take self, it's going to take a recipient ID, and it's going to take a profile. So it's going to look just like the other one. And we'll handle the doc string. We'll do the same thing there. And recipient ID again is going to be, actually it's going to be these things. So I'm just going to copy these and paste them over. Again, we can take the same, actually we can take the same URL, we can take the profile. Actually we can take all of this and make a couple changes. So here's all of this. Again, it's going to be base URL / profile / recipient ID. We're going to pass the profile over the same way, but I'm going to double check. Not that one. So again, the post, it takes a recipient ID and the profile in JSON. And if we were to put one in here, like so, you can see that it's got one property that it's passing over, and it returns status of success. So this one's going to be really easy. If you've done one, you've pretty much done the other. One is a put and one is a post. So marching on. Let's see. Okay. So down here, here's the payload, and we're going to change this from a put to a post. We're still going to pass over the URL. We're going to pass the payload as JSON. We're going to watch for 400 to come back and raise an exception, and then we're going to return the JSON response. Cool. So this should make our test pretty easy too, because we are just going to do another copy of these two files, these two functions. I'm going to paste it. And so this one is merge. Merge. Spell it right? Good. And then I didn't go up high enough, but we'll fix that. And then this is a merge. This is a merge. And this is a merge. So we've got merge profile and success merge profile and fail merge profile. That should be what we need. And if we go back, we'll run the tests. And of course, I probably missed something. We didn't, oh, this is the other thing that we need to do. These aren't puts, these are posts. That's a post. And that's a post. So what was happening is I ran that test and it couldn't find anything, any registered responses, because it was looking for a post and we only had puts. So we'll save that. We'll rerun our tests. 16 tests passed, still 100% coverage. So we're good. Awesome. Now let's go. And one thing that I like to do is I have a global git ignore, and I put some files in there so I know I never accidentally add them to a repository. One being this ajh underscore test.py. So my test files all start with my initials, ajh, then underscore, and then something. But this allows me to send to test things out without getting them into our repo. And so I have just a simple trycourier test here that's doing a send. I'm going to source my .m file so that way my API key is in there. with all of our client libraries, we try to make it to where you can set your API key using an environment variable, and so I have that in there, so I'm not revealing that to you during this live stream. And then I have this set up so I can just do Python JH hi, and then it went over into my Slack because that's the way I test things. So I just send them to Slack. Cool. So let's use this file to modify this to send an email to a new recipient because I do have an email address that I can use. So we're going to need all this, but first let's comment out all of this stuff because we're going to have to do, I'm going to do that will block commented out. So let's create the recipient inside the recipient store in Courier. So I think, do I have to do, it's like, do I have to do another install to pull this in? Let me see. So we have dev requirements, no, test requirements, regular requirements, okay. Well, let's find out. Okay, so we've commented that out. We have our Courier client, and so let's do try response is equal to client dot. So at this point we could use a merge profile or a replace profile because either of them are going to create a new profile if one doesn't exist, and one definitely does not exist. And so let's just go ahead and do a replace profile. And so that is going to take a recipient ID, and we're going to make this test 1, 2, 3 ABC. So a recipient ID can be any string, but you want it to be something that doesn't change. So a lot of times this recipient ID is going to match up with like a user ID in your database. So that's either going to be like a GUID or some kind of like integer. You just pass it over as a string. For this test, I'm just going to use something like this. So that way, I can find it. It's easy. And then we're going to pass it a profile. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to say profile is equal to, and all I'm going to give this is an email. And this is going to be my demo account. So Aydrian.demo @gmail.com. And so we're going to pass profile in. And so that should create it. And so let's do a print of response, and that returns, what does that return? I think it's just the status, but let's make sure. So yeah, status. All right, so we're just going to return the status there, or just print that out. And then we're going to go through and we're going to do another response. And we're going to get the profile back out. So that way we can see it. Actually, I should let's do this. So I'm going to make it something wrong, and then we'll pull it out. So we'll do dot get profile, and we'll pass it this recipient ID, and I'm going to do this. Recipient underscore ID is equal to this string right here. So that way we're going to be using this recipient ID a lot. So this is going to be recipient ID. So we're going to get the profile for the recipient ID. And we'll print it out. Let's see, print out the response. You know, we'll just print out the whole response. We don't have to dig in. Okay, so now we're getting it back out. This is where we're going to be like, oh, we're actually sending the wrong thing. To make sure we know that this doesn't replace, I'm going to put another thing in here, and it's going to be phone underscore number, which is another profile. And we'll do +1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I had a good fake phone number. Actually, yeah, it's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's enough numbers, and it's got the 555 in there, so it's not a real number. I'm not going to put my number in there. I don't need you. I don't need more people texting me. So this should pull it out, and we'll see that this email is wrong, and so this gives us the chance to do a merge profile. So we can do client.get merge profile, and it's going to take the recipient ID, and then let's make say fixed email, and that is going to just be a dictionary with an email address and the correct email address. So that is aydrian.demo@gmail.com. And so now we'll pass in this fixed email, and we'll print the response. Whoa, thank you, text, you're not helping anymore. We'll print the response, and then one more time we will do a get, just so we can see that the right thing came out. With the phone number still being the same, meaning that it did actually merge it. It didn't replace it. Okay. So we've done all that. There's a lot of commands going on there. And we'll do our accept Courier API exception as error. And we'll just print the error dot message. Hopefully we don't have that. Okay, and so we've saved this, and now we should be able to run it. So we'll do Python. All right, so at first we've got the success. So that is from the creating the profile. And then we do a get, and it outputs the profile. So here is the profile that we put in with the mistake. And so then we do our merge profile, and that comes back as a success. And then we do a get profile again to see that the email has been updated, but the phone number is stayed the same. So it looks like everything's working. That's pretty great. So now let's take this out. I'm going to comment this out, and I'm going to uncomment that. I'm sure there's a command key to do this. I'm still learning all of the shortcut keys. So now, instead of using this recipient ID, which I'm going to save down here, we will use this new one that we made up. This is test 123 ABC. So we're still passing the data. This is the data object that we're passing over. So here's a list of Pokemon dictionaries that we're going to pass over, and it's going to be part of the message. This time we're passing in the recipient ID of the profile that we created down below, and we should see an email come across. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to run this again. Okay, so we got a message ID back. That's a good sign. Let's go over to Courier, and we'll look at my logs. I'm going to close that. Let the logs load. Refresh. Taking a little bit. Okay. So here you can see 26 seconds ago, the Pokemon notification came in for recipient test 123 ABC, and it was sent out via Twilio. Oh, that's not good. It's because I have it set up to send to SMS if we have one. So let's go into my Pokemon notification, and you can see the order preference here is Slack, Twilio, and SparkPost. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag SparkPost up above, so that way this fun little email comes out, gets sent out, and we'll go back and to our Visual Studio, and we'll send it again. Okay, so we got another message ID. That's great. Go back here. We'll take a look at our logs. All right, so now we have another Pokemon notification that came in, test 123 ABC, and it was sent out via SparkPost. If you've never sent anything with a Courier before, it's kind of cool to see what came in. So here's what came in via the API call. So you can see all your data. This is great for me to make sure that I actually did it right on the other side. You can see that we're using an event mapping, so I'm using this Pokemon notification, but it's actually being mapped to a ID. You can see the information that's being loaded from the profile, so that's interesting. Oh, okay. Yeah, the merged profile, and here's some other stuff. But we do have my email address coming up. That's nice. And then we got some information about it being delivered. So this is the SparkPost response. And whenever you send something via SparkPost, it just sends you back an ID, and it sends you back how many of the recipients were accepted and how many were rejected because it's an async operation. So now let's open up my other email here and put that over there, gmail.com. See if this is still logged in when I used it the other day. Great, so here's my demo account. You can see that I have a message from Courier. It's a Pokemon notification, and oh, that's because I didn't build out the entire data object. That's sad. But there would have been pictures of them. One of my other examples has the full data, but we now have an email address, or we now have an email that was sent through Courier. So that tells me that this is working, and so we are safe to do a commit and start our PR. So this will be fun. We're going to do this all right here. Okay, so back down here, let's take a look. So we've only modified the test client and client. That's great. So let's do a commit. I wonder if this is, okay, so added methods for, let's see, added support for profiles API. Okay. Great. And so now I can push this up, git push origin, that whole long thing. Wait for this to come back, and I love that it returns this link that will take you right into starting your pull request. And so I'm going to click on that link with command click, and I'm going to tell it to open. And so this is going to take me in, and we're going to start building out the pull request. So added support for profiles API. I'm just going to update that a little bit. Okay. So the description. So we have GitHub templates for our pull requests and our issues. And so once you get to this page, you just basically fill this out. And so we're going to say added support for profiles API by adding methods for get profile, replace profile, and merge profile. Cool. Type of change, this is a new feature, so it's not breaking, we're just adding functionality. Related issues, it's actually related to the one, but it'll take care of that, so I'm just going to take that out. Checklist development, okay, take that out. Okay, so lint rules passed locally, yes they did. The code change added as part of this pull request has been covered with test. Yes, it has. And all the tests related to the change code pass. Yes. And this code review is for the people who are reviewing it. I'm going to assign this to myself. I don't think everybody has the ability to do all this, but whenever I do this, I assign it to myself, and then I'm going to have one of my fellow engineers at Courier give it a once over. Oh, wait, it's checked. Okay, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and label this as an enhancement. And it looks like we are good. So I'm going to go ahead and create the pull request. And so here's our description. All checks have passed. That was fast. So this is what I was talking about. Whenever you submit a pull request to one of our repos, or specifically this one, we have GitHub Actions that are running. So if we look at these checks, you can see that we are actually building this against versions 3.5 through 3.8, because those are the versions of Python that are still supported. And so whenever a new one comes out, we can just add another build, and whenever 3.5 goes bye-bye, we can just remove that. But this is a good way that we can make sure that this is going to work on all of these versions. And then we just wait for somebody to review it, and it gets merged in. But that's basically all you need to do to contribute back to the library. And then also we have support for Profiles API now. So if you are a Python user and you haven't installed the trycourier package yet, give it a try. Sign up for free. We allow you to send 10,000 messages a month, and you can send those through Slack. You can send them through a multitude of email providers, SMS, Twilio, MS Teams. We have lots of different providers for lots of different channels, and we make it really easy for you to design these notifications as well. So give that a chance, give that a try. That's all I had for today. Thank you for those of you who showed up, and I will see you next time.